Hello my dear students, I welcome you all to the next lecture of how do organisms reproduce. We have completed with asexual mode of reproduction and today we are going to learn the sexual mode of reproduction. The main difference between sexual mode of reproduction and asexual mode of reproduction: in asexual mode of reproduction there is no male female gametes involved. We have seen just a cell is there, the nucleus of the cell divides and then the two cells divide. There is, or otherwise a bud is formed and just a bud gets separated from that. Vegetative mode of vegetative propagation. One more important things are there yesterday that I did not, it is basically not the part of your textbook, but of course when I was reading, going through some references, I found one more thing: the advantages and disadvantages of vegetative propagation. This is again an important reference that I got. Advantages of vegetative propagation: new plants show exact characteristics as those of the parent plant. See, again here the main thing is that I am trying to bring you to your notice is that there are no males and female gametes formed. Vegetative propagation, it can take place from any part of the plant. Even a root can form into a different plant. We saw yesterday, so in case of potato, the root forms another potato, the root forms another potato, sweet potatoes, normal potato. Or sometimes the stem also can be used for forming a new plant. Rose is the best example of that. We have always seen that. Leaf also is there. The leaf also can, the edges of the leaf, roots can newly develop over there, and from there also a new plant can be grown. These are basically vegetative propagation. Here we don't see again any male gamete, female gamete, and unification of any of these sort. But yesterday I wanted to, this also we could have completed vegetative propagation. New plants show exact characteristics as those of the parent plant. The method is faster and certain when it talks about vegetative propagation, especially grafting and all, where actually speaking the stem or a bud of one plant is taken and it is implanted on another plant, and over there another plant grows. So these basically here the characteristics of the plants are also there, and this is faster and certain. Plants not capable of producing sexually can be produced by this method. Plants which actually can't produce sexually, like some flowers are there, we can see over here flowers, sometimes they have a male part, the female part, and then they unify. Some plants which don't have sexual mode of reproduction, there are nothing of this sort happening over there, that time we can use this vegetative propagation. Some or the other part of the plant can be used for reproducing that plant. So that is vegetative propagation, and examples are seedless bananas and grapes. Disadvantage of vegetative propagation: of course you can, the most biggest thing is that when we know that exact replica is made, exact replica of the parent is made, that means the variation is impossible. Variation is next to impossible over here. Okay, no possibility of variation. The new plant grows in the same area as the parent plant, which leads to competition for resources. See, there are few modes of reproduction, some few modes of vegetative propagation where actually the plant grows in the same area, the new plant grows in the same area where the parent plant is. And when both of them are growing in the same area, then definitely the resources that are available, there will be a competition for the resources. So this is that what actually I should have completed yesterday. I just found it today when I was going through some references. So this is one nice topic that I had to bring it to your notice. Now considering, where was I? The difference between sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. The gametes are formed in the sexual reproduction. Male gamete, female gamete, they fuse to form a zygote. The zygote then develops further into an embryo. So these all things are not there, not seen in asexual mode of reproduction. Again, why these all things are needed? Why is so much of stuff needed? This also actually I'll touch today also again. The reason is simple. In asexual mode of reproduction. Normally this is the mode of reproduction where a simple living organism is involved. Simple living organism, it can be unicellular organism, multicellular, simple organism, where actually the body doesn't have highly developed systems like animals have. Animals have a different system for different processes. Digestive system for digesting the food, circulatory system for circulation of the blood, then respiratory system for respiration, and they all are again working in synchronization with each other. See, the most highly advanced mechanism in this world is a human body. Highly advanced mechanism. So a normal mode of reproduction will not be of any help over here. The DNA, you need to make a copy of all the characteristics which one body has got. See, a human body, the cell of the human body needs to have that information, that how this spine of this body is going to perform and how it is going to perform, whether it will stand erect or it will be horizontal like dogs and all. No, it will not be horizontal like dogs or any other animals. This is going to be erect. He is going to walk on his two legs. His four limbs are basically hands. So these all information has to be transferred properly, and these information are stored in the DNA. And the DNA is simply you push the DNA into the new organism, growing organism, and there the information will be carried out. It's not possible. Again, with the DNA, a cellular apparatus is passed. Each time when the DNA splits or the cell splits, the cellular apparatus goes with it. Why? The information needs to be transformed, that how this cell is going to perform, how this cell is going to develop into which organ, and after becoming that organ it is going to be part of which system. After going into that system, what function this organ is going to perform. These all is, and accordingly the organ has to be taken and placed over there. So this all things are not that simple as that are going into the simple living organisms. This mechanism is highly advanced mechanism. So for all these things, there is a different mode of reproduction, that is sexual mode of reproduction, which actually involves all this, handles all this information in an effective way. So that is what is there in the first part of your introduction to sexual mode of reproduction. And then they start with the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants, I have drawn all the figures necessary that for today's lecture, and just to save time definitely, and I may need help in between just in case I am missing anything. See, my dear students, when you talk about plants, I am very sorry, actually the figure in the textbook can be of help to you. You can take the figure in front of you. I'll try to do it over here because I don't have, of course I am also not that skilled to draw, but still come over here. See, flower, if you consider the flower, this basically I have not painted over here, no, I have not labeled it. This is calyx. These basically there is a green part, a calyx, and these are petals. Petals. After you can consider a hibiscus plant, the petals are there, and the down the green part, calyx is there. And one more important, the male and the female part. Here what happens, the male and the female part, this is the male part, the stamen. This is the whole, the male part, and this is made up of two things. This is basically the anther, which actually has the pollen grains in it. Pollen grains, the male part. This is the male part as such. This whole is the male part as such. This is basically called a stamen. Stamen is made up of, see, like our hands. Hands are made up of what? Hands are made up of these biceps, forearms, wrist, palm, fingers and all. The whole thing is called as a hand. Similarly, a stamen is made up of, this is a filament. This is a filament, and at the top of the filament there is an anther over here. This each one is called as a stamen. This is male body part. Female body part is basically this whole thing from here to the bottom, and that is called as a pistil. Pistil. Okay. Now what all things the pistil has? The pistil at the top one end, terminal end, is a stigma. This is a stigma. It can be sticky, slightly sticky. Purposely it is made like this. And then there is a long tube which is called as a style. This long tube is a style. This is the stigma, style, and at the bottom there is a balloon like structure bulging. This is basically inside. This is the ovary. All these three, stigma, style and ovary, make the female part of the flower, that is called as pistil. Are you getting my idea, students? So these are the two things that are involved when you are learning. I'm very sorry, just a minute. Something or the other is falling. These are the two things, male part and the female part. Now how the function is there? See, pollen grains are exactly present in the anther, and which are the male gametes, or which are called as sperms. And the ovary over here, this has got the female gamete, which is called as ovule. Ovule is present over here. Okay. Now what happens? The pollens from the anthers, they can burst over here. They just travel from here, and they can drop over here on the stigma. They just come in contact with the stigma. Now you may think how and why they will come in contact and touch over there. It can happen. See, a plant has got many flowers at a time. Many flowers at a time. A hibiscus flower, there will be many hibiscus flowers over there. It is not that only this pollen grain will go and stick over there. It can be any pollen grain from any flower in this whole series of plants. Any pollen grain can come and stick over here to stigma. How it sticks? When the wind flows, with the wind it can come. Even when actually we are touching the flowers, we can see many number of times we get some yellow particles stick to our hands when we go through the hibiscus area or any of the sunflower area. When we just move our hand over them, so the yellow particles, they are pollen grains. At that time it is possible that one or two pollen grains get stick to the stigma over there. Even when the animals, they move around, the animals also help that stigma, the pollen grains, to transfer from anywhere, wherever they are, to get planted on the stigma. Anyway, but if the pollen grain of the same flower gets embedded over the stigma of the same flower, then it is called as self-pollination. But if the pollen grain of another flower gets planted on the stigma of this flower, then it is called as cross-pollination. Then it will be called as cross-pollination. Okay, my dear students. So, but then thing is that the pollen grain has to get embedded over here on the stigma. From the female body part, the male gamete has to get implanted on the female body part. Okay. Now this is that pistil drawn over here. What happens? This is the pollen grain which has got embedded over here. Now this pollen grain, which is basically the male germ cell, this pollen grain then wants to enter into and wants to meet with the ovule, that is the female gamete. Then it starts shooting a tube from there. Try to understand, the pollen grain shoots a tube from there. Supposing there is a pollen grain like this over here, then it starts shooting a tube like this. It starts shooting a tube like this, and this pollen tube, this tube is called as pollen tube. It goes down, 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 and it enters into the ovary. It enters into the ovary, and then these male germ cells, they enter through the pollen tube and enter into the ovary. And in the ovary, there are ovule. These basically are the female gametes. Then the fertilization takes place over here. Okay, that is the male gamete unifies with the female gamete, and zygote is formed over here, which then later develops into an embryo, which has the ability to grow into a different plant. Okay, then what happens later is that this whole ovary, my dear students, this whole ovary, see, now there are two parts. Once the fertilization is taken place, now there are two parts. One is the ovule, which is inside, and the other one is the ovary, which is outside. The ovule, it develops into a hard covering, and that becomes the seed. That becomes the seed. Whereas the ovary, it grows, it develops, and after ripening, it becomes the actual fruit that we eat. Okay, so you can understand that apple and all, mangoes and all, what we eat. So the outer part that we eat or we have, that is basically the ovary, and the seed is inside. Okay, that is basically the ovule, which hardens itself and forms a seed. Okay, so this is how the fertilization takes place in sexual mode of reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, I am clear with this. Am I missing out anything? Of course, they are all angiosperms. That is there. Pollination, how it takes place, self-pollination, cross-pollination, fertilization. As I told you, pollen grain, the pollen grain itself, when pollen grain settles on the stigma, they form a tube called pollen tube. It falls a tube, and the tube enters down, it reaches to the ovary and enters into the ovary. The tip of the pollen tube dissolves and releases the pollen grain into the ovary. In the ovary, the female gamete fuses with the pollen grain to form a zygote, which then later develops into an embryo, and that's all. I hope you all are getting this sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Of course, there is one more diagram that is given, which is very important, my dear students, where they have asked you as an activity, they have told you to take a chana, which we have chole and all. That basically we have practiced this. We soak it overnight on the water, and then afterwards we try to keep it in the cloth, damp cloth, and we see that it gets a shoot after some time. So if that type of a plant, chana, one chana pea if you take, then if it is about to sprout, just before sprouting, when you open it delicately, then you will see it like this. It is a dicotyledon, one cotyledon over here, the other cotyledon on the other side, and in between there is this, which is basically the lower end is called as a radicle, one end is called as a radicle, the other end is called as a plumule. Plumule, after it grows, it becomes a shoot, whereas the radicle, when it goes, it becomes a root. The plumule is a future shoot and the radicle is the future root. This is the diagram which is given here in the textbook, page number 135. Very important diagram, my dear students. And then comes reproduction in human beings. See, my dear student, page number 136. I will like you all people to read this, because there are lots of things that not much, but of course the development of the human body as it is during puberty, then what all things and how all things are developed, and the body changes that are taking place in the human body, boys, girls, that are given over there, and they are very easy to understand, nothing great in that or nothing difficult or complex in that to understand. Only thing is that, of course, these all, why these changes are required, why these changes takes place in the body of the male, of the girl, of a boy or a girl. As they grow, the body changes, the body part changes. There are hair growing, and different type of hair growing in different parts of the body. The armpits, the genitals, they have got different type of thick hair over there, whereas the beard and all, they will not be that thick. And all these bodily changes are there. Why these changes are required? Just because there are hormonal changes taking place in the body. Certain hormones are secreted in the body which are needed for the sexual mode of reproduction. Before this age, before the age of puberty, these sexual organisms are not highly developed, are not prepared for reproduction. When these body parts are getting developed for the reproduction, there are some hormonal changes taking place in the body. Hormones are getting developed in the body. With these hormonal developments, these body changes are also seen. Of course, they are very normal. You can just go through this page number 136. It is very easy, nothing much to. I'm just seeing if anything is there. Bus. Of course, certain parts are there which needs explanation. One is male reproductive system and the other one is the female reproductive system. So if you consider the male reproductive system, what do I take? See, male reproductive system, basically of course, male gametes, likewise over here we had male gametes and female gametes. So male gametes are produced here. They are present in the anther, and from there they are transferred to the female body part. Pollen grains are transferred. So here the male gametes are basically the sperms that are formed, and they are formed in the testis. In the testis. Here they are formed. Okay. Actually, we have an epididymis over here also. Forget. So this is the testis over here. This is basically present in the scrotum of the boys or the males. Then the testis produce this male sperms, and which is outside the body. Testis. See why? Basically, in female body system, the female gametes are produced inside the body. The ovaries which produced female gametes, produce means they are already present. They don't actually newly produce. I'll come to the topic. Basically, but they are present in the ovaries, and ovaries are present inside the female body. Whereas the male gamete sperms which are produced are produced outside the body. They are produced, they are not already present. The female ovum, which is eggs, are always present in the body. Whether during the girl babies born, at that time itself all the ovums are present in the body, but they are not active. When they reach the age of puberty, then these eggs become active, and then they start to be released. They are already present in the body. Whereas in the human male body system, the male gametes, the sperms, are not present already. They are produced, and they are produced outside the body, because for the production of the sperms, the temperature of the temperature needed is supposed to be at the lower degree Celsius compared to the body, and the body temperature is higher. So because they want an environment which is at the lower temperature, that's why the scrotum is actually outside the body. That is the reason why it is outside the body. And then the sperms are produced, and there is this tube that is called as vas deferens. From this vas deferens, the sperms travel, and these vas deferens afterwards. See, in between this is seminal vesicles. These are seminal vesicles. Of course, there are some other glands also there, prostate glands, And of course, this is also one gland, Cowbus gland or something like that. These are glands are there. They also release pore alkaline secretion in this semen which is traveling. Vast difference is the tube through which it travels, and then it comes, and at the same time a tube comes from the bladder. This is the bladder, and bladder always releases urine. So the two tubes, where the tube were coming from the bladder and the vas deferens, they unite together and they both enter into the urethra. This is basically the urethra. From this urethra, the sperms are ejected or the urine is thrown out of the body, depending on the situation. Okay, so this is how it takes place. Anything else is there? Bas, that's all. See, again I repeat, the male's sperms are generated in the testis. Testis needs to be highly functioning. The hormones released by the testis is testosterone. Testosterone is one very important male hormone which needs to be there, and this is again during the puberty. During the age of puberty, this testis starts to perform, and then testosterone is released, and because of this testosterone, the male body parts develop. So these hormones again are released by the testis only, and the sperms, they are released. The sperms via vas deferens, they travel and they enter into the tube, which again unites with the tube which comes from the bladder, and this becomes a common passage for the urine also and for the sperm also. It goes through the urethra and then it is thrown after the body. Urethra is the tube which is present at the central part of the penis. This is the penis, and the urethra is present and it's running through the central part of the penis. Okay, this is how it takes. The female reproductive system. In case of female, see, first of all, in males we have seen that the male germ cells are produced by the testis. Testis is the organ which produces the male germ cells. In case of female reproductive system, ovaries are there. These are the ovaries on both the sides, a pair of ovaries which releases the egg cells. Egg cells are already present in the female baby, as I told you, when it is born. It is only when it reaches the age of puberty they become active, and at that time they are released. One egg each month. It is released like that. When the eggs are released by the ovaries, these are the fallopian tube, actually oval duct. You can call it as a oval duct. Via the oval duct or the fallopian tube, they enter into the uterus. From here, they are released from here and they enter into the uterus over here. They are released from here and they enter into the uterus over here. This actually is the uterus or a womb, which normally in English we call it as a womb. The baby is basically taking birth over here, is getting developed over here in this part. It is a sac-like structure. So when the eggs are released, they enter into the uterus. Now what happens? See, either of the two things are going to happen. Consider case 1. Supposing normally they are released with the intention of fertilization. Fertilization in the sense, see, when the penis enters into the vagina, it releases the germ cells over there. The male germ cells are left into the human female body via penis when it enters into the vagina. When the sperms are released over here, they go into the uterus. At that time, the unification of the egg cell with the male sperm cells takes place over there. This unification is called as fertilization. Either this will happen. Of course, I'll first go forward in this path. When the eggs are released, and if the egg cells come across or get unified with the male germ cells, fertilization occurs, and the zygote is implanted on the uteral wall, and over there it keeps on developing. Why I am taking so much of pause is that there are lots and lots of things are happening. It is not that everything is suddenly happening. Everything is basically nature. It is nature. Everything is planned. Everything is present already. Everything is prepared already. See, my dear students, when the eggs are released, at that time itself, the uteral wall, it develops a lining, because it considers that because the egg is released, now unification or the fertilization will take place. The egg cell will unite with the germ cell. This is taken into consideration by nature, and according to that, the uteral wall develops a change. A lining is developed, which if the fertilization takes place, then everything is kept ready for the zygote to take place, for the embryo to be developed, because then the nutrition is supposed to be provided to the embryo. Then a placenta basically is a tube which is connected between the embryo and the umbilicus of the mother. All the nutrition is provided to the embryo via the placenta. And in the meantime, during this development, the embryo, which is a developing cell, also gives out waste products. They also are left via placenta into the mother's blood. This is the way the nutrition and everything, means things are happening at a greater sense over there. This is really a very beautiful topic. Actually speaking, I am unable to control myself that what all things I should say and what all things I should not. See, but one thing is definitely, I'll bring it to your notice, my dear students, that it is such a beautiful topic that nature really takes care of each living being. Each living being. When a child is going to be formed, it is not even formed. The uteral wall develops itself, preparing itself, considering that fertilization will take place. If the fertilization takes place, the embryo is developing, then the placenta takes place and the nutrition of the baby is taken care of. During this time itself, my dear students, there is a gel-like structure that is formed around the baby. This gel-like structure plays a big role. It takes care of the baby. If the mother undergoes some shocks and the shock is going to be passed on to the baby, then this gel-like structure absorbs those shocks. At the same time, just imagine when the baby is growing inside the mother's womb. It is growing. We notice normally the stomach of the mother grows so big. At that time, these muscles, basically the uteral wall, it also expands. But really, my dear students, this expansion also is done how do I say it? Take it in a proper sense. I am very sorry that I am comparing it in this fashion, but this is the only way I think you will be able to visualize. But definitely it is not a very good comparison. Like example, you must have seen older people at your home, in your homes. They use that water bag for making their body warm, for heating their body somewhere. That water bag is there. The rubber of that bag, it is so strong rubber. It is ready to, it is so flexible basically. It's ready to expand, at the same time it is ready to contract also. Something of that sort the uteral wall is. The uteral wall is ready to expand as the baby grows. It expands. At the same time, the same uteral wall and that same jelly-like structure which is around the baby, when the baby is fully grown and is ready to take birth in this outside world, when it is going to leave the mother's body, enter into the outside world, this same jelly which was protecting the baby throughout these many months, it breaks open first. And that jelly-like structure makes these all passage of the mother's body, gives it a greasy effect. greasy effect, so that the passage of the child through the mother's body becomes easier, and the same uterine wall which was expanding with the growth of the baby gives that elastic push to the baby so that it goes out smoothly, as smoothly as possible. Definitely it is smoothly maybe for the baby, but at that time the mother really goes through a tremendous pain. It is not that smooth for the mother. Care is taken a lot of the baby. These all things are so beautiful to understand, my dear students, that nature really takes care of everything. That is basically this topic is really very, see, there are certain topics of biology which really will give you a huge amount of wisdom if you really understand these topics very nicely. So this is how, let us come back to our portion. So this is what happens if the egg cell which is released into the uterine cavity undergoes fertilization by the germ cells. But if the germ cells are not there, fertilization doesn't occur, then what? Definitely the lining which has been developed on the uterine wall, and this is now not needed, and the egg cells which are again present in the uterus, they are also not needed, so they have to be left out of the body. They will again create problem, otherwise infection and all. So that's why they have to be left out of the body. Then when they go out of the body with the amount of blood, the lining, the egg cells, they leave the girl's body. At that time, those days we call as a menstrual cycle. That process is called as menstruation. Are you understanding the topic? See, egg cells are released by the ovaries through the fallopian tube or the oval duct into the uterus. Once the egg cells are into the uterus, either of the two things will happen. Either it will get germ cells, male germ cells for fertilization. If the fertilization takes place, then immediately the release of the egg cells next month, next egg cells is stopped. There is no more release of the egg cells so long as the baby is developing inside the mother's body. Then of course the care is taken and the baby is developed. Baby leaves the mother's body, and once the mother's body is left out, of course during this period lots of hormonal changes takes place in mother's body. It is really a big task that mothers go through. Lots of hormonal changes takes place. Why I came over here is that when baby takes birth into the new world, again the body of the mother has to reset itself, come back to the normal. That again is it's huge mental pressure for the mother at that time. Of course, when the body is set again, then again the egg release starts, and then this is the procedure. Let us go back to the start. If the eggs are released, fertilization takes place, then what is happening? I told you. If the eggs are released and fertilization doesn't take place, then because with the release of the eggs, the uterine wall will develop a lining. There will be a change taking place in the uterine cavity, uterine wall. These egg cells which are there in the uterus and the linings which is developed on the uterine wall has to be left out of the girl's body, and that time when they are thrown out of the body of the female or the girl, then we call that process as a menstruation. And this happens every month. Every month the egg is released. Every month, if supposing the fertilization doesn't take place, then these eggs are released out. This menstruation, the process of menstruation, can prolong from 2 days to 8 days, approximately anywhere in between. So this is how, my dear students, the sexual reproduction in human beings is there. I think I have completed everything. I have not left out with anything. Okay. What happens when the egg is not fertilized and everything. Okay, my dear students, yes, you can go through this, you can read this chapter. I don't think I have left out anything. Okay. Now the next topic is reproductive health. Reproductive health. This is something that now our syllabus wants us to understand, that there are some responsibilities that we as a human being, or as a citizen of the country, or as a human being, or as we stay in the society, we have to take care of certain things. My dear students, see, basically body undergoes, sorry, I'll repeat, the reproductive system of the human, of the girl child or the male child, it starts developing maybe at around the age of 13, 14. It starts developing. It is a slow process. It is starting to develop. It is not developed. Definitely there is maturation of the sexual organs taking place, but this doesn't mean that they are matured. Why I am telling you they are matured? Because see, when the maturation of the sex organs are taking place and the body is getting ready for reproduction, for pregnancy and all, at that time the general health of the child is also developing, because general health of the child is very important, is very, very important. As I told you, whether it is just sex or pregnancy related out of sex, either of the two, the general health of the body has to be strong enough to go through it. Now, how do you understand, and what are the precautions that we have to take? Because when these organs are developing, when the maturation is taking place, at that time also there are lots of hormonal changes taking place in the human body, be it a boy, be it a girl. As I told you, the testes are releasing testosterone and all type of other type of hormones, and they definitely play a different role in both the cases, in the humans, I'll tell, boy or girl. At that time also the child has to take care of the mental health, because the sex is something that has got an intimate relationship between the two bodies, and for that the general health of the child has to be strong enough. And that age, 13-14 years of age, is not that strong age to face it. Pregnancy is something even more huge task. The body has to be really very strong for that. At the same time, let us consider first of all, if there is sex without any pregnancy in the mind, then what? That also has different effects on the human body. First and foremost, the most important thing is that sexually transmitted diseases, STD. This is the most important factor, because the diseases, STDs, these are sexually transmitted diseases, are one of the most difficult diseases to control, and definitely they are very painful due to many reasons. Many reasons why I am telling this, because see, I will just touch that topic and come. Because we are staying in an Indian society. Indian society even today believes that when any person, girl or a boy, when they have any type of problem with the sexual organs, they normally don't reveal it, they hide it. And even if supposing they tell to their parents also will not immediately open up to the doctor and all. Definitely they take the decision, but they also take some time that makes even more painful for the control of the disease. That's why I am telling that it is very difficult. Of course, as it is painful. As it is, that STDs are very painful. On top of that delay, that even adds to the pain and adds to the difficulty in controlling the disease. Now, what are the types of diseases that actually from lower standard itself they have started this in the syllabus, because the awareness of the disease is very, very important. That is the reason they have started it. And then there are various diseases, like of course the most havoc-king one is the HIV, AIDS, a highly infected virus, viral infection, bacterial infection, where is gonorrhea, syphilis. These are all type of STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. Now comes the next topic. If these diseases are supposed to be controlled, or person doesn't want these type of diseases taking place, then what are the methods? Though a person is wanting to have the physical relation, have sex, but safe sex, then what are the measures that are to be followed? See, the one is that the topic the syllabus is talking about is creating a barrier, a physical barrier between the germ cells and the female eggs. A barrier is to be created. For that, most common practice is use of condoms. Condom is something that is worn by the penis. The penis wears the condoms, so that even if that time when the penis is inside the female body and the sperms are released, but they get released only inside the condom and it doesn't enter into the female body. So by this, because the sperms are not released into the female body, the fertilization of the egg cells and the germ cells the question doesn't arise of that. This is something that is done by the male. The other thing that the male can be practiced is, sometimes that they can do is that they can cut this vas deferens, where it is actually traveling, the sperms don't come out of the body itself. They can cut it. This is a surgery procedure, or sometimes I have heard that, just a minute. Yes, if the vas deferens in the male is blocked, it is blocked. But by what measures it is blocked? See, this is when this can be done in the case of girls also. At that time, what they do, a copper T is used. A copper T is used. The copper T is placed somewhere over here, and then the sperms don't enter inside the uterine wall itself. Or what they can do is that they can clip these fallopian tubes. Surgery procedure, they cut these fallopian tubes so that the egg cells don't enter inside only. That is a surgery done. But the clipping and copper T are such a procedure that, supposing they just want a temporary blockage of the egg cells, maybe after some gap or during the favorable period, the parents want to have the child. At that time, they can just remove the copper T, or they can just remove the clips, and then they can think about having the child. But once the fallopian tube is cut, then it is cut. So that's why surgery is basically a long-term procedure. So this is the condition, but of course it is considered that condoms are safer. Copper T can be safe if it is properly done. Otherwise it may give infection to the body. So these are the things. I'll just read out these things. If supposing I have left out anything, then the sexual act always has the potential to lead to pregnancy. Pregnancy will make major demands on the body and the mind of the woman. And if she is not ready for it, her health will be adversely affected. As I told you, the general health of the body of the girl, especially if pregnancy is supposed to be considered, the general health of the body of the girl is supposed to be healthy. If the girl is not healthy, then the motherhood is not going to be that easy for her. It can take her life also. Therefore, many ways have been devised to avoid pregnancy. These contraceptive methods fall in a number of categories. One category is the creation of a mechanical barrier so that the sperm does not reach the egg. A mechanical barrier so that the sperm does not reach the egg. Condoms on the penis or similar coverings worn in the vagina can serve this purpose. So condoms, as I told you now, the penis wears the condoms, and even if the penis then enters with the condom inside the female body and releases sperms, the sperms are trapped inside the condom and they don't have any chance to enter and reach the egg cells. Another category of contraceptive acts by changing the hormonal balance. That's why I read it out. One thing more is there. Pills can be taken by the woman. If she takes the pills, then these pills creates a hormonal imbalance in the body, and then these eggs which are released, they are not released. It's the female body stops the release of the egg, and because the release of the egg is not taken place, so even if now the sperms are released into the human body, there are no egg cells up, so fertilization will not take place. But definitely this is not a very good practice. First of all, it is not definite that it will really work, means eggs can be released also even after having pills. It may be possible and still the fertilization will take place, but the pill is being taken, so hormonal imbalance and hormonal differences is taking place, so side effects can take place in any way. So this is not a very safe method, but it is one of the method. Another category of contraceptive acts by changing the hormonal balance of the body so that the eggs are not released and fertilization cannot occur. These drugs commonly need to be taken orally as pills. However, since they change hormonal balances, they can cause side effects too. Okay, these two are over. One is condom and one is pills taken by the girl child. Other contraceptive devices such as loop or copper T are placed in the uterus to prevent pregnancy. The copper T is placed over there. If the this is one copper T, uses of copper T which is placed in the uterus so that the sperm doesn't enter into the uterus. If the vas deferens in the male is blocked, sperm transfer will be prevented. If the fallopian tube in the female is blocked, the egg will not be able to reach the uterus. In both cases, fertilization will not take place. Any of one can be done. Surgical methods can be used to create such blocks. While infections and other problems, while surgical methods are safe in long run, surgery itself can cause infections. See, surgery, the placing of the block and everything can be safe, placing of the block, but the surgery itself, when the surgery is done, the body is cut and the clips are placed, that procedure of surgery itself can be infectious if it is not done properly. Surgery of any time is a risky matter, any surgery, if not performed properly. Surgery itself can cause infections and other problems if not performed properly. Surgery can also be used for removal of unwanted pregnancies. If supposing pregnancy has taken place, then surgery can be done so as to abort the pregnancy. Okay, these may be misused, but of course this is something that has been misused by people, especially in India. They misuse this, and that is the reason now this type of surgery, they are very much restricted, and lots of investigations are done before that. Criminal investigation type of investigations are also done. Of course, the reason you must be knowing that first prenatal investigation is done so that they know that whether it's a girl child or a boy child, and if it is a girl child, then the pregnancy is aborted. This has been practiced in India n number of times, n number of years, of course, but now they are trying to control it. These may be misused by people who do not want a particular child, as happens in illegal sex selective abortion of female fetuses. For a healthy society, the female male sex ratio must be maintained. Because of reckless female feticide, child sex ratio is declining at an alarming rate in some sections of our society, although prenatal sex determination has been prohibited by law. Okay, I hope you all are getting this. If you have any doubts, you can even put it on the group. I'll try to explain it. But this topic basically deals with reproductive health, means how to take care of the human body, how the diseases should not be occurring because of sex, and how to avoid pregnancy. That is what they are there. So I think that you have understood this topic. If there is any type of doubt, then you can put it on the group. Okay, my dear students, I hope I have explained it well. That's all. Thank you.